What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel for another 1/6 scale figure related video. I do apologize for a couple things. Number one, for the bit of a hiatus I've taken from making videos on the channel with the sick pet that I mentioned to you guys on the live streams. It's just been taking up a lot of my time, and it's been hard to find motivation to do these videos, but I'm hoping to slowly make my way back into it. Also, I apologize, my voice sounds a bit odd. I am pretty sick right now, but I had to get on and talk about this figure because a lot of people, knowing that I love my Predator stuff, have asked me about it. So guys, today we're taking a look at the 87 Jungle Hunter 2.0 by Hot Toys. There's a lot I have to say about this, guys. I want to start this off by saying I'm very happy that this is a thing. I'm glad we're getting unique stuff like the Feral Predator, all of the Romulus stuff, now this 87 Jungle Hunter 2.0. So I'm going to complain a lot about certain accuracy details because it's something that I care about a lot personally when it comes to Predators. But I've already pre-ordered this figure, guys, so I don't want to act like I'm just complaining and complaining. I did pre-order this figure. The issues that I personally have, I'll find a way to fix through George over at GKH16 Customs. He does great Predator customization work. I've showed it to you guys before on the channel. But we're going to get into it, guys. So I'll start by saying this. Some stuff was changed from that original prototype that we saw many months ago, and they've been showing it off here and there. I will pull up the picture really quickly so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So this right here is the original prototype that we saw pop up at a couple conventions. We saw it pop up with the Terminator figures as well, and of course a lot of us got really excited. But as soon as I saw this, guys, and I said it on the streams, I said it to anybody who asked me, had a lot of weird issues, a lot of weird things going on there. And unfortunately, some things were addressed, but some things were not. Something I want to point out, take a look at like this green tinge that the armor has. It doesn't come off as bad in this particular photo, but it looked very, very green. And I know they call it like a gray-green armor paint job in the description for the new 2.0, but it was very, very green. And also the dreads you could see here, they're supposed to have 3 gold beads on each dread. They only had 2. So those are a couple things that we noticed right off the bat. A lot of us Predator guys were like, hold up, what's going on here? Also, another thing I noticed, guys, is the paint scheme on the skin. This bicep line here and the paint scheme kind of all over the skin is very wrong for the 87 Jungle Hunter. This little line here in particular, and on the other bicep, you can't really see it as much because of the bicep armor. That was present on the Predator's Jungle Hunter, the classic Predator, if you will. It was not present on the 87, and you'll see what I'm talking about here later in the video. But let's take a look now at the new, back over to the new 2.0 87 Jungle Hunter, and let's see what they've changed. So right off the bat, something I want to say that they've done a great job on are the dreads. I love to see the texture in the dreads. We're used to seeing them be pretty smooth. They have some slight ribbing to them on the older versions of Predators, but these look definitely improved. Also, as you can see, I mentioned it, there's 1, 2, 3 gold beads on every single dread. So that's good. That's a big accuracy issue. Going back to that classic Predator from the Predators film from 2010, the classic Predator had 2 beads on the dreads, but the Jungle Hunter from the 87 film from the very first film had 3. So I just wanted to make that clear. Another thing I want to mention while we're here, as you can see, they have not updated the paint scheme, and again, it's coming from that classic Predator. I feel like a lot of those little design cues they carried over here, and they didn't do their research enough on this one. It's a bit unfortunate because this bicep line straight across the bicep, and again, some of the patterns all throughout the skin, they're not correct. Really what you see on the 87 Jungle Hunter is like kind of a rounded, like oval shape, and then another shape up here. There is a separation, but there's another shape up here in this corner, and you're not seeing that here on this figure. I want to pop over to some more photos as well. Actually, before I go over to the next photos, another thing I want to show you really quickly. This is wrong as well, which is crazy because this was correct on the original Jungle Hunter, the original 87. Because again, another thing where people are getting confused, and I will show you guys here shortly, there's a difference between this, the classic Predator, and the original MMS 90 Jungle Hunter Predator. So this is a 2.0 of the MMS 90, which had the original 1.0 body style. So a lot of people are saying, oh, I don't see too many differences between the two. That's incorrect. This is a huge difference from the original MMS 90. I just want to make that clear. Though I am being nitpicky and complaining about some accuracy issues, this is definitely a huge upgrade you'll see from that 1.0 MMS 90. So I want to make that clear. This right here is there's supposed to be a separation in the fabric, and then you have some fabric pieces running along the towards the base of the fingers. It's not supposed to be a full glove here. So again, we're seeing some reused parts here from that classic Predator, which I don't like. Looking at the full picture here of the body, there's some things I do like. I think the head sculpt, again, though I do have some issues with it, there are some accuracy issues there. I think it looks pretty awesome. I definitely like that. There has been an addition of rolling eyeballs, which you love to see. Love to see that being standard across all figures, especially with the Predator figure. I'm very curious to see how that's accessed. I imagine you're just going to separate the head from the neck and access it that way. One thing that is missing, and again, I will show you guys photos from the original screen used costume. There's a bunch of quills that are supposed to be all over the face here, and obviously you can see they're not present. There are some like little tiny ones on the side here, but part of the reason I think, and I'll give them a little bit of a break on this, though I would have liked to see maybe an additional head sculpt, is putting that helmet on, that biomask, when it goes on the face. It probably would have squished down those quills and potentially broke them. So although I'm kind of making an excuse for Hot Toys, maybe that's why they didn't do it. It's still disappointing to see. In a perfect world, maybe they could have included like a sculpted helmet with the biomask pre-sculpted onto the face, and then an extra head sculpt where you could swap out the mandibles as you see presented to us here, but with all of the quills included. That would have been perfect for me, in my opinion. That would have been more accurate. It would have kind of completed that look for me. Again, not a massive deal breaker for me, but definitely a bit disappointing. Another thing I'd like to point out while we're here and looking at the front-facing photo here, the shoulder cannon is definitely too small. Also, the trophies here, this like satchel type trophy, there's some pieces there that are not correct. Again, this is like, some of this is nitpicky stuff. The average collector is not going to care. And you know, guys, again, when it comes to Predators, I just get really into it, and I'm very into the accuracy and details. So again, excuse me, I'm being nitpicky, I know, but for me, that definitely bothers me. You do have the fabric pieces by the elbow, which is correct. One thing that was a bit disappointing, there is a USB powered LED in the biomask for the targeting system, but there's no USB LED in the shoulder cannon, that's understandable. That's very difficult to implement. It's so small in there. Even George, who does all these customizations, he said it's very, very difficult. Also here, I would have loved to seen some USB powered LEDs in the left gauntlet as well. Obviously, because towards that end scene, you have that whole sequence where he flips it up, types in the code, and he's ready to self-destruct, and he's laughing in Dutch's face. So that would have been really cool to see. It's a bit unfortunate. One thing I do really like, I want to commend them on the skirt here. I think the skirt looks awesome. I love the pattern on it. I think it looks fairly close to the film. Again, something that's very difficult to replicate with all those tiny little pieces hanging down there, those little tassels. I think that looks pretty good. And also, I like that they've done a real fabric rope around the waist here and didn't cheap out and make it look super fake. I definitely like that as well. So again, there are things I'm going to pick out that I think are pretty cool. The deluxe base, obviously we're looking at the deluxe here. The regular just comes with like a normal circular base. This is the deluxe base. You'll see in some other photos potentially where you could see that Dutch's knife is stuck into the base. I think that's really cool, and hopefully that's a sign that we'll be getting a new Dutch, because I think that's long overdue as well. Yeah, you can kind of see it here. So something I want to point out with this next photo that's really cool, you have a concept helmet here. And this particular concept helmet, there are photos of it behind the scenes as they were developing the Predator suit for this film. I'm sure some of you guys have seen that OG Predator suit that was super hideous and weird looking. Jean-Claude Van Damme was in the suit. Very bizarre when you go back and look at it. But this was actually one of the concept helmets for the Jungle Hunter Predator. And believe it or not, for those of you who don't know, if you've seen Predator 2, this mask might look familiar, because this ended up being the biomask for the Guardian Predator in Predator 2, which is a really cool little nod to that, and I think it's cool that Hot Toys included this. And if you're curious to see what I'm talking about, as you can see, here's one of the behind-the-scenes photos. You could see that biomask right there. Very, very cool. I got to give Hot Toys props for that, thinking outside the box. Really, really nicely done. I think this looks awesome. So definitely a huge fan of that. That's a very interesting photo. You can barely, but hey, we'll give him an excuse. We'll give him a break. This is from 1987. So, but I wanted to show that to you guys. Some of you guys might be curious of where that's from, and that's where it's from. But yes, also, I really like the inclusion of the little skulls that come with it. I think that's a nice touch. I felt like that was very absent from the previous versions, even like from the classic Predator. I'm surprised, because Hot Toys does what they do. They didn't just throw those in with that. That would have been pretty cool. Going through more of the photos, though, again, you do have a slight green tinge on the armor. It's not as overly green as it was. You know, I'm not going to complain about that too much. Something I do want to talk about is the newly developed body. Looking at it at first glance, it looks very, very similar to the 2.0 body, not the 1.0 body that we saw with the first Jungle Hunter Predator. It looks very similar, though I'm seeing it here, and I'm hoping that that torso is seamless. I was quickly going through the sideshow description. I don't know if it mentioned that or not. I couldn't find it at first glance, but I would imagine because they did that with the feral predator, they're going to follow suit with this, because apart from that, the body looks very similar. Of course, you do have single jointed elbows again. With that, guys, I'm always forgiving with that because it's kind of unavoidable if you don't want to make it look ridiculous like those 1.0 bodies who had those double jointed elbows. So that's a good compromise. It kind of adds to the look, adds more to the realism. I'm okay with that. Again, some stuff here I'm seeing I really like, and some stuff I don't like. So that's kind of the theme of this here. Also, when it comes to the hands, we do have basically all reused hand sculpts. Does it surprise me? No. Is it a bit of a bummer? Yeah, I would have liked to see more of a variety of new hands. I think he only comes with 6 hands total, which a lot of Predators usually don't come with a lot of hands. This look here with the closed mandibles, I absolutely love. That is such an iconic look for this version of Predator, so really love to see that. Again, just those added quills onto the head. I might have to have George do that for me down the road when this comes out. That would just really help bring that look together. Again, the rolling eyeballs is huge for a Predator figure. Love to see that. I think that's going to add a lot to your posability with this one. We also have a newly developed spine trophy, which I think is pretty cool. It's nice to see they're not reusing the same one that they've reused many times. I think it looks pretty cool. I really like what Prime 1 did with theirs, where it kind of has it like bent back so he can hold it naturally. Kind of looks awkward in this photo, again, with those reused hands. I'm not a fan of that. I wish they would have redone the hands, or at least offered more new ones. But what are you going to do? You know, you can't have it all. Another thing I want to point out here, guys, I don't know what it is about biomass, but oftentimes Hot Toys just doesn't get them right, and I don't think they've nailed the biomask yet again on this one. The battle damage on it, it's a bit odd, in my opinion. I think it's a bit misplaced, and it doesn't quite look like it does in the film. The shape of it, it doesn't quite angle back like it should. I don't know, there's just something about their biomass that's just not quite right, and that's part of the reason why, for me personally, I like to upgrade them. With this one, I probably won't do that. I have a fully custom classic Predator that was converted over to a 87 Jungle Hunter, you know, painted in the bicep lines, custom biomass trophies, you name it, shoulder cannon. So I probably won't bother with a custom biomask for this one, but definitely not a huge fan of how it looks. I do like how the lenses look. Those look awesome. I got to give them credit on that. I love how the lenses turned out. Those look fantastic. It's just the shape. There's just something about it I don't like. And again, the battle damage is not correct if you compare it to photos from the film. So definitely a bit unfortunate on that one. With that being said, guys, I know a lot of nitpicks there. It's still an awesome looking figure. The average collector is going to look at this and be like, dude, this is freaking sweet. And I still think that, guys, it just needs some work, in my opinion. And, you know, shout out to Nick and Riley. Their hashtag fix Black Suit Toby works. So maybe we have to do hashtag fix the 87 Jungle Hunter Predator. Because, you know, with some tweaks, this could be very, very good, guys. It's just there's a lot of reused armor pieces here, a lot of reused parts. Just a lot of, like, corners cut, you know, and that happens sometimes with more complicated figures from Hot Toys, and unfortunately we're seeing that here. So again, it's not a total loss. I still think it's really cool. They got the wraps on the elbows, on the knees, you know, the skirt looks awesome. I love the head sculpt, minus the fact that it's missing a lot of the quills, but again, I understand why. I would just like to have maybe seen an alternate head sculpt. But again, we're gonna look at some screen use photos so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about, see that I'm not just talking out my ass. And I'm sure some other people have pointed out these inaccuracies on the Facebook post. Again, really love that helmet. I think that's really cool. I want to go through some more photos so we get some more close-ups of the head sculpt. Again, it's so funny because when I look at these photos, it's like the inaccuracies just scream at me, and I wish they didn't. Like the glove, the mispainted portions on the body. Just that stuff just kind of jumps out at me. And, you know, maybe you guys feel that way about some particular figures where I don't complain as much and you do, and I totally understand it. Close up on the head sculpt, the paint job's pretty nice. When it comes to the mandibles here, I would have probably liked to have seen a little bit more wetness to the mouth just to really show us how ugly they really are. I think that would have made a lot of sense. Again, that closed mouth mandible looks way cooler to me. I just love that. It's such an iconic look. Not that the other one's not cool. This is just so cool. You can see photos here of the two interchangeable mouthpieces. In the past, it always worked where these two come off and then the middle one comes off as well, the mouth, just to get the biomask on. I imagine it works about the same, if not similarly, maybe just the side mandibles. I think the mouth probably comes off, but again, we have mention of that newly developed body. I don't know if this is a seamless torso. I would imagine that's the route that they went, because apart from that, it doesn't look that much different to the 2.0 body. This is what I was talking about earlier with the 3 different forearm armor blades. One benefit though, guys, I will say to these not being metal, there is a silver lining. I noticed on a lot of the older ones, the metal tends to like dig into the hands if you're not careful. So maybe that is a silver lining that they're doing these in plastic now. And, you know, I'd like to use the excuse that it's not as heavy, but the original blades were very light, so can't use that excuse on this one. Here's the big picture before we take a look at some photos of the other stuff. As you can see, the deluxe version here comes with that special concept art mask, the jungle themed diorama base, and the 2 skull accessories. But guys, that is my long-winded rant. I do want to show you guys some photos of the screen used costume so you can see what I'm talking about with some of those inaccuracies. It's really cool to look back at a lot of these photos as I pull it up here of the whole process of making this costume. You can kind of see here what I was talking about though with the paint on the biceps. You can see it's more like a oval shaped pattern there. It does break up above the bicep more in the lower part of the shoulder, and then there's another white patch there, which is not present on this new 2.0. Love to see these behind the scenes photos here. As you can see, that green tinge to the armor is present on the original suit. It's just Hot Toys went way too heavy on it on that first iteration of this 2.0, which I'm glad that they improved that. But again, you could see here the differences in all of the paint on the legs and everything. You're going to have to compare it. But again, as I mentioned earlier, I really do want to commend Hot Toys on the skirt. I think that's a big improvement in my opinion. Here's another good side view, a bit weird lighting, but you can see the shape of the biomask. Again, it's not really sloped enough on the Hot Toys version. The bicep paint, all the paint on the chest and everything, I know it's a bit hard to see. This is also a really cool shot here from the side. Again, you can kind of see some more close-up details on the armor, the biomass shape from the side. It really helps to see it from the side. The trophies, just some really cool photos. Love this photo here with the cast. Again, you could see all those little details here, especially in these photos in the sunlight. Stan Winston and his crew developing these costumes. So freaking cool to go and look back at this and see all those little details and see everything and all the iterations they went through to make this. Really, really awesome film, so definitely really cool. This is definitely really creepy, but really cool to see. The Predator without his face, essentially, in the water here in that costume. You know, we always wonder how some of these older costumes got so wrecked over the years, and you can see, I mean, they put them through the ringer. They definitely put them through the ringer. That's really, really cool to see. Great shot here to see a better look at the paint work on the body. Again, you don't have a line going straight across the center of the bicep. It kind of comes to the end of the bicep and the bottom of the shoulder, and then you have a breakup of some more of that like tannish color. So again, when you go back and look at this 2.0, you can see it's not correct. They really need to revise that, and I hope that they do, because that would make a huge difference. It really would. From this angle here, you could see some of those quills that I was talking about that are sticking up here on the face. I'm thinking there's probably going to be another photo where you could see that. This is good to look at too, because Hot Toys actually did replicate this, which is freaking sweet. I didn't show a photo of this. I don't know if it was in the deluxe photos, but Hot Toys did replicate this, and I love to see that attention to detail, because it reminds me of the City Hunter Predator that they did. His cleaner kit was really nicely detailed, and so was the Wolf Predator from, I think, 2017 that came out. So that's really cool to see that they replicated this for the new figure. And this is a perfect photo here. You can see what I'm talking about with the quills. They're not present on the Hot Toys figure like this. You see the ones on the side here, but the ones all over the forehead that kind of go up like at a slope, you don't see that on the Hot Toys sculpt. So it's a bit unfortunate. So again, I know I could be a little nitpicky with these Predators, but it's something I wanted to point out. And I think it's fun to go back and look at the references and everything for such a special figure. Here's an even closer up shot you could see of those eyes, number one, so you can compare it to what Hot Toys has done. But also, again, you have those little quills all over the face, like all over the face. They're very, very present. So definitely would love to see that improve from Hot Toys, but again, I understand with the biomass having to fit over the face, it's kind of difficult. And here's a shot of Arnold. You can kind of see the hands that I was talking about earlier. It's not a full fabric covered hand. You can see you have some down here, and then you have some fabric running along the finger holes here. I'll try to find another photo of the other hand, which I pointed out on the Hot Toys figure. All right, so here's that other hand. Here's a nice outstretched pose to kind of compare to that pose that they have the Hot Toys figure. And you could see there's some fabric here, but it kind of goes lower towards the wrist. It's kind of like a wrist wrap, and then the finger holes go upward. So there is a hole in the middle. So that just shows you they reuse that classic Predator hand sculpt, which is a bit unfortunate. Going back in time real quick, looking at the predecessor to this figure, this is the original MMS 90 87 Jungle Hunter. This is the 1.0 of this new 2.0. You could see, frustratingly enough, they did get the wrappings correct on the hands. You have the gap in between with the finger holes and everything. Not 100% spot on, but as you can see, it is better. Also, in the bicep area, even though you have this ugly 1.0 body style that looks very awkward and disproportionate, you could see the muscle is correctly painted here on the bicep, and there's a separation above the bicep, and then you have that paint going towards the shoulder armor. Again, this figure is very outdated, and the new version is heaps better than this one, so it's certainly a worthy upgrade over the original. Just something I wanted to point out because I found that very interesting. Some more photos of the original. We got Dutch there in these photos as well. Also, before we end out the video, one more thing I want to show you guys. This is the classic Predator that was referenced multiple times in this video. This is from the 2010 Predators film. This is what a lot of people I saw in the comments on the Hot Toys page getting confused about, saying like, I don't see any upgrades at all. This looks very similar. It's because a lot of people are going back and looking at this version. Although this is a Jungle Hunter Predator, a member of that clan, this is not the 87 Jungle Hunter. There's a lot of differences between these two versions of these Jungle Hunter Predators. But unfortunately, when it comes to Hot Toys, you know, of course they reused a lot of the pieces. So we have to keep that in mind. There are a lot of reused parts between these two. Again, as we look at the paint scheme here, and if you look at some photos of the screen used costume from Predators, you can see that bicep line going straight down the middle of the bicep is accurate to the classic Predator from Predators. So just wanted to point that out, kind of take a look back at some of the original photos of this classic Predator so you could see kind of where the laziness came in from Hot Toys, where the reuse of some of the parts came in. It's a bit unfortunate, but again, guys, I don't want to cry about it forever. Let's jump back to our photo of the 87 Jungle Hunter as we close out this video. So again, guys, I want to reiterate, I know I did a lot of complaining, a lot of whining in this video because it's something that I care about a lot when it comes to accuracy, and I know a lot of people were asking me, and it's hard to put into words as I'm writing it out and typing it, so I figured why not make a video and talk about it. I know a lot of people are going to say, you know, we should want this release, we should be excited for it because this is something unique, and I totally agree. And again, I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I pre-ordered this figure. I'm still very excited to see a brand new Predator figure from the best Predator film, the OG 1987 film with Arnold Schwarzenegger as Dutch. This is very, very exciting, guys. Do not get me wrong. It's just all these things I'm mentioning in hopes that maybe Hot Toys make some changes to it. And again, maybe we'll have to do that hashtag fix the 87 Jungle Hunter Predator in the comments moving forward. Maybe we gotta kind of light a fire under their ass like Riley and Nick did with the Black Suit Spider-Man. But yeah, this is very exciting, guys. I hope to see a Dutch, seeing that knife embedded in the deluxe base. Fingers crossed that's a maybe a little Easter egg that we're gonna get a Dutch here soon. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, they obviously were working well with Arnold, doing 2 new Terminator figures, and then we got a T-1000 as well. So hopefully we could see that. That'd be really cool, and I'd be super, super stoked to finally get a proper Dutch in my collection. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Are you going to be picking up this figure? Are you going deluxe or regular? Price-wise, guys, I think from Sideshow, before any taxes or shipping, just the listed MSRP, you're looking at $300 for the standard, and for the deluxe here, you're looking at $340, which is cheaper than the Feral Predator by a fair amount. Definitely confused by that. I don't know if it's that licensing. I know the Prey licensing was really rough. It took them like 2 years to announce the figure from NECA and Hot Toys and many other companies. I don't know what that's about. Also, just for comparison's sake, if you're curious to see what the collector edition includes, this is the collector edition right here. Both these versions are now available for pre-order through Sideshow, Off the Racks, many other outlets. I think Off the Racks already sold out of his allotment of the deluxe version. If you guys really want more from Off the Racks, I can let John know and see if he can get some more. But that was a pretty quick sellout. So guys, I think that tells us, regardless of my crybaby problems with all the accuracy issues on this, it's gonna sell. It's an iconic character, an iconic film, and a very sought after 2.0. So is it a worthy 2.0 from the original MMS 90 version? Surely it is, but I think they need to go back to the drawing board. that's my final thoughts on it, guys. Very excited to pick this up again. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Again, I know there's going to be other inaccuracies that I mentioned in this video. There's just so much to go through, so much to digest. So if there's anything you notice that you'd like to share, drop it down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. See ya.